You need to trust yourself. Yes, you. Think about it. Why would you trust strangers over your own intuition? Why would you give others sway over the things in life that matter to you most? Close your eyes and imagine that perfect ending, that North Star. Why would you so easily trade that away? And I'm not sure if it's simply out of caution, because historically I've been overly thorough, but it's always been incredibly important to me that I get consensus, that my friends or family or people that have had success in business, I really wanted them to feel what I felt and see what I saw. And I'm guessing that, in some capacity we all do. We like to hear, hey, that's a great idea. You're amazing. That's incredible. But I want to show that other than validating our egos, feedback, negative or positive, is often pointless. Let me first start with what I'm not saying. I'm not saying ignore the analytics, the numbers and data. I'm not saying to go through life blind. I'm not saying your audience or customers or support base is wrong when they push back on something, a product or service or a creation. What I'm saying is simply this. The world cannot see your idea. It is make-believe. It's irrational. Nothingness. Until, of course, it's built and placed in front of them. To have a pull inside you to create something, but then refuse to bring it to life because of what others say, it's like being judged for a bodybuilding competition 2 years before the competition date. Quitting, right? It doesn't make sense. You'd be graded on a pure hypothetical. I've had very smart people tell me things in my life wouldn't work or didn't make sense, and they were wrong. And it's not personal, it's just that my goals existed outside of what they understood. Even smart people operate from their own lived experience. I've had friends, poke fun or give me a hard time about some of the things I've done creatively over the years. And then, this is zero exaggeration, ask me for help teaching them how to do those very same things. I spoke about this a little bit starting out, but in many ways the cycle repeats itself. People ignore or show no support for what you're trying to do until it works, right? Then all of a sudden, like moths to a flame, they're back, right? Dying to reconnect because it's quote unquote been too long, time to catch up. All this stuff, I used to take this personally, like very personally. And I bring it up now because it's one of the things people want to talk about with me more than anything else. At least as far as, online questions go, or people asking questions about starting a channel or building a media company or whatever it is. Comments, DMs, emails. Same theme, right? Disappointment for not feeling supported by those who you thought would be there when you're doing something vulnerable. And it's like, it's not personal. You have to remember, it's never personal. The faster you learn that, the better, right? Because of two universal truths. One, people just act in their own interest. It's just what they do. And two, people can only see what's in front of them. This means necessarily that their feedback is just hypothetical on top of hypothetical. Hey, I'd really love your opinion on the weather for July 16th next year. What? And why? That doesn't make sense. Same idea. People act in their own self-interest. People can only see what's in front of them. To ask more than that, you're not doing yourself any favors, right? And if that's true, then why would you expect them to see something that doesn't exist? Why would you expect them to feel what you feel? To carry your vision with the same conviction you carry it? The dream was given to you. The pull is yours. So is the responsibility. Not because you're special or smarter, simply because you're the one who can see it. That's the deal. The artist sees the painting before there's paint on the canvas. The entrepreneur sees the company before there's a customer. The writer sees the story before there's a page. You get where I'm going with this, right? Every meaningful thing begins as something invisible. And if you require proof before you move, if you require that consensus before you act or permission before you believe, you'll spend the rest of your life waiting for other people to validate a future that only you can see. You have to learn to trust yourself. Trust that feeling that keeps showing up and the idea that won't leave, the voice beneath all the noise, because one day the world may see it. They'll understand, and then at that point, I'm sure they'll call it obvious. But long before any of that happens, there will be a moment when it's just you and a decision to move forward without certainty, build without applause, to believe before there's evidence. That moment is where every extraordinary life begins. Comparison is the thief of joy. We've all heard it before, and it's true. Sometimes. It seems like there's always a sometimes, or an asterisk, or a gray area. Comparison can be an incredible tool in simply reminding you that you're playing small, maybe way too small. So from time to time, I'll use comparison to help me paint that picture, to create that outlook. Quick example. So on the shelves behind me, my Audible library on my phone, there's a ton of books and biographies about the founding fathers and other notable American presidents. Why? Well, because they lived lives of such courage. They lived with such conviction. They just lived differently than we live today. And it forces me to ask the tough questions. It's like, well, why? What makes up for that difference in magnitude? Was it simply the times? Were they a product of their moment in history? Were they more determined? Did they have more self-belief? Right? Where is this delta that I'm seeing when I look at their reality versus mine? You read Hamilton's biography, who's not a president, but you get the point. And my toughest battles seem to contain the same level of intensity and weight as his decision to swat a fly. Right? So I'm going to run through 3 bullets that sort of frame my thinking. It's going to seem like I'm unnecessarily beating myself up here, but the point comes full circle, so bear with me. 1, Washington. Everyone knows, right? Led an army initially practically destined for defeat. His execution and death was almost assured. And then I'm like, okay, I led myself to the gym today. Adams crosses the Atlantic 4 times for his country. At the time, that just brought unfathomable risk, and he does it with a smile. Me, I'm procrastinating about making a phone call. Jefferson, drafting a declaration that claimed independence from the strongest, most powerful empire on earth. Me, I get butterflies before going live on Instagram. We are not the same. Why? Well, I guess first and foremost, let's make sure we're asking the right questions. Who says you or I don't have the potential to be a Washington, an Adams, or a Jefferson? It's not productive to downplay our own battles, right? However small. After all, that's how empires are built, a stacking of small wins. No one just arrives in a position of influence, right? And these folks surely had their own battles. That's all subjective anyway, but the comparison here is sacred to me because there is a common theme amongst all of them. And it's not hidden. You don't have to read between the lines to see it. It's self-belief, right? All of these people were in an environment where change was warranted, and all of them believed they themselves could be levers to help shift that status quo. It's like for no reason, the buck stopped with them. And you see that from childhood on. It suggests that if you believe you can be great, and I do, and by the way, so should you, then understand that it's not possessing of courage that is the issue. The issue is that you're merely holding what amounts to a bucket of it, when the true depth of your courage reaches miles and miles down beneath the surface. There is so much more, so much that is incomprehensible. The problem, Eddie, is you can't hit targets you don't aim for. If you don't stretch, there will be no growth. If you aim for a moderately sized mountaintop, that's where you'll land. You'll get a view, sure, better than the ground you stand on now, but nowhere near the view available to you had you merely thought bigger. Thought of yourself as that lever that could implement change. If your giant victory is making a phone call you were dreading, well, then that's the type of courage that will define you. I think in a perfect world, these aren't destinations, they are pit stops. They are tolls that we must pay along the way. You're capable of way bigger. Life begins when you know that. And see, I don't associate this idea as coming from a place of lack. I just think this game of life is beautiful because the journey is endless. This is a choose your own ending story. And sometimes what I need is to look around and realize I'm simply not thinking big enough. The great men and women of history that paved the way for us, they didn't stay connected to these micro problems. They moved beyond them on their way to more. They dealt with life and death. They dealt with seemingly insurmountable odds, simply in the name of their beliefs and ideals. Easy wasn't a choice, not for them. It's why their faces comprise the bookshelf behind me. Now, does everyone want or need that type of personal ascent, growth in the face of adversity? That's for you to look in the mirror and decide. But you're here, so I'm going to assume you do, and if you do, it's critical to know that 1, that type of result demands more of you, and 2, you have more. Comparison isn't always about inadequacy. Sometimes it holds that mirror to your face. Sometimes it reminds you what mankind can produce with courage introduced into the formula. You just need to be reminded that you're looking at the jar right now from inside the jar. Expand your thinking. See there's more, right? Roger Bannister, probably my favorite example, first one to break the 4-minute mile. Prior to that, it was not possible. Humans didn't do it, couldn't do it, wasn't reality. Everyone, quote unquote, knew that. Then Bannister does his thing, breaks it. Suddenly, whoa, it's possible. Now it's real, it's tangible. Runners around the world adjusting their targets. They demand it of themselves. Rapid fire, globally, runner after runner starts breaking that mark. Why? Well, people didn't get more talented overnight. They always had it in them. They just finally allowed themselves to be as good as they were capable of being. And that thing you're fighting, that you're dealing with, it's not nothing. In fact, the battle you're navigating is everything, and I commend you for pushing through it. But take this idea and let it be a part of the arsenal you own and possess as you navigate life's storms. The challenge of today is ultimately small compared to what the best of you is capable of overcoming. What's now the ceiling will be the floor tomorrow. Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Hamilton, they were not gods. They were principled men driven by a purpose bigger than themselves. The scope of their belief in what's possible was monumental. And so, to maintain proportionality, they too grew to be momentous, to fill the shoes of self-created expectation. Sometimes the best thing you can remind yourself is how big the world is, how much you can shape and bend your reality, how powerful you are. You're not a quiet observer, but a builder of this world. Then risking execution makes more sense. Smiling at the prospect of death at sea becomes reasonable. Giving the metaphorical middle finger to the king of the most powerful empire on earth becomes a little easier to understand. It's like, I get it now. The world is malleable. And they knew with courage it could be shaped in their image. Insert you. Different theater, different time, different characters, different objectives all together, but same premise. A malleable world and an opportunity to shape it. So here is to finding the courage to shape your life. Never to dismiss or belittle your own small wins, for all big things are comprised of only small things, but rather to remember where you are now is not the final destination. It's one step on your own personal staircase that ascends to the heavens. Where you stop is a decision entirely yours. See, something beautiful happens when you set the standard so high that it hovers above the clouds. The obstacles along the way become far less intimidating, less significant. The story doesn't end down here, so there must be a way. And when we tell ourselves there must be a way, we simultaneously increase the odds of finding one. Right now is not the final boss, the coveted mountaintop. Right now is a small win that will help shape you into your evolved self. Right now is a mere challenge, an obstacle, a slight inconvenience, a story to tell, a data point as you etch into the ether your reality. As you dream larger than life and grow into those shoes, you could have played small. But then you woke up. You saw beyond the manufactured finish line that was turning molehills into mountains and realized if you want it, this world is yours. And I say, let it be so. If you're lucky enough to be different, don't let go. I spend a lot of my time and energy exploring the power of perspective. How our reality is determined by how we interpret what's in front of us. How one person can look at one thing and see pain or a problem or a barrier, and another person can look at that exact same thing and see opportunity or a future win or a bridge to something better. And I think one of the best examples of this is how we perceive those qualities that make us unique. Those things that put us in a different category. Maybe we're a little hesitant to fully embrace because they're not common. And when it comes to that which separates us from everyone else, well, I believe we have a decision to make. I'm going to go back to Robert Frost's fork in the road, right? He says, 2 paths diverged in a wood. I took the one least traveled by, and that made all the difference. On the surface, you could easily brush this off as trivial. It's like, oh, nice, that's cute. He took the path less traveled by. But what does that mean? As it turns out, it means a lot. It means instead of burying what makes him different, he made it his battle cry. Instead of slipping under the radar and sneaking through life like so many of us do, he signed the dotted line for the pain of being a beginner, the struggle of being uncertain, the discipline and sometimes torturous road that is turning a passion into excellence, trading peace of mind for the pursuit of meaning in life. Exploring what makes you unique, it takes courage. And in that message, he chooses courage. Because it's not just that you're alone. Taking that path means every step of the way, your mind screams at you reminders that you're alone. It's not just fighting traffic patterns, it's fighting your DNA. It's resisting that impulse to please sit down, shut up, and blend in. So is it a trivial decision? I'd say not really. Maybe even the most important decision you can make. Because I promise you it's not your commonality with those around you that will bring fulfillment, that will leave a mark on your life and the world that surrounds you. No, it's that thing that's unequivocally you, that's a little out there, that's somewhat strange, that you don't know why, but its gravitational force pulls and pulls and pulls. A tug of war, where one side begs you to just relax, conform, do less, begs you to never be laughed at or criticized, to take the easy road. Then you have the other side, poking, prodding, asking you, hey, yeah, but what if? What if you sacrificed the comfort of right now? What if you explored? What if you took that which you love and you ran with it? What if you worked for a delayed payday? What if for a moment in time, when people ask you what the plan is, you have to look back and say, you know what, I'm not quite sure what I'm building, but I'll keep pivoting until it's so clear you can see it from the moon. Those are the paths that pull us apart. And every time I've lost my way, it's because I've doubted my unique path. And I mean that every time. It's when I become impatient with the journey or look around and see someone else winning in a different arena using different methods, different strategies, see the latest trends and success formulas. Hey man, I want part of that, right? I'm human. I want to win. I want to succeed. But just like a little opening is enough to let in the outside water that sinks the boat, well, a little bit of doubt is enough to derail your process. A process that you have to believe in, protect, nurture. A process that I've come to separate into two pieces. Number one, believing that the exploration of that thing that makes you unique, it's valuable. That your abilities mean something. They're not inconsequential. They're not stupid or trivial or unnecessary. If it means something to you, it will most certainly mean something to others. And you bringing it to life not only helps yourself evolve, grow, flourish, it helps the world. You just have to believe that enough to bring it to life. That's number one. Number two, trusting that as long as you don't stop in pursuit of your unique self, you can't lose. You can't lose. And I don't mean continuing to ram a square peg into a round hole. I mean growing, learning, experimenting, seeing what works. There's a saying that when you hit a dead end, it's not that the goal or the dream should be abandoned. It means the plan needs to be changed or adjusted. And as you get better and more experienced and continually work to adjust your strategy and your plans, learn from your mistakes, it becomes a matter of time. You increase the odds with every step forward. Being different is the most precious thing afforded to you. But to realize that miracle requires a combination of both the mythical and the practical, the imaginary and the real. Dream that dream, visualize that growth, create a world out of those ideas that don't exist yet. But also understand that the conversion process from dream to reality is a practical one. It requires repetition. Learning, losing, adjusting, and people don't like that. It's much easier to blend in than spend years pushing through the agony of setting yourself apart. But it's worth it. And the evidence is so obvious, so plainly pointing to the fact that we only celebrate the outcasts, the crazy ones, We sit around campfires, listen to lectures, watch movies and documentaries about the people that had every reason to doubt themselves but kept moving forward. About the people who could have swept their unique abilities under the rug, but instead used them as their foundation for everything. Not being distracted by what's popular or how anyone else lives or operates. Not seeking to be anyone but themselves, knowing that that is enough. Knowing it's the seed to something precious. The only question is, will you provide the right conditions and nourishment for that little seed to grow? Will you do what so few people have the courage to do? Let their authentic selves shine through. Let who they are emerge. Emerson has a quote. He says, "To be yourself in a world that's constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." He goes on to say, "My life should be unique. It should be an alms, a battle, a conquest, a medicine." And see, perpetual happiness is a fool's errand. No, life is full of trials and tribulations and ups and downs. But fulfillment comes from that quest for meaning, for more, for building something, for creating your unique self, a process, a pursuit that must be chiseled from stone. It's never given or provided. It has to be found. Take it. And as Emerson beautifully implies, now is the time. The question is, what are you going to make with this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? What will you make of the possibilities that only you know, only you understand, that only you can bring to life? Never doubt yourself, or your gifts, or the things that set you apart. You don't need everyone else to believe in them. You just need to convince yourself. Everything else, it falls right into place. Before the first light at dawn, before anyone wakes, there's a battle being fought. A battle no one can see, but a battle that determines everything. A young Spartan stood before the morning sun. His village was quiet, his peers were sleeping, yet he was awake. And no, there was no battle that had arrived. But in his heart and in his mind, he knew the battle was coming. And in that quiet hour, he whispered to himself, "The enemy you cannot see is the enemy you must train for." Because, pragmatically speaking, there was no enemy out there. It wasn't waiting across a field. It wasn't a man, a beast, or a weapon. The enemy was invisible. It was doubt. It was fear. It was the hesitation that lives in your chest when no one's watching. The weakness that whispers, maybe this is too hard. Maybe you're not quite ready. Come back tomorrow. And that right there, that invisible weight, was the enemy he had to face first. And so he trained. He ran while the hills burned his lungs. He lifted while his muscles screamed. He sparred while his body ached from yesterday's strikes. And every day, he trained in silence. Every repetition was a quiet promise to himself. Every drop of sweat was a declaration. Every fall, every bruise, every failure, he embraced it. Because he knew What you practice in the dark determines what you win in the light. All day, every day, through it all, he repeated the words, "The enemy you cannot see is the one you must train for." He understood a truth that the world rarely tells you. The battles that shape you are never the ones you see coming. They're the ones you can't anticipate. They're the ones that hit when no one else is watching, and if you are not ready, you will fail. That's not personal, that is just life. And so every day he committed to this process, and people laughed at him. They mocked his effort. They whispered that he was wasting his time, his energy, his life in totality. Why do you run up hills that have no end? Why do you spar with shadows? Why do you lift what you don't need? And he could have listened. He could have stopped, could have joined them in their comfort, their excuses, and their shortcuts, but he did not. Because he knew something they didn't know. He knew that the belief in yourself is stronger than validation from the world. He knew that preparation for the invisible is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. The enemy you cannot see is the one you must train for. And then, one day, the battle came. It was sudden, unforgiving, brutal. Men faltered, hearts froze, chaos roared. But not him. He moved with a rhythm, a certainty, a precision that could only have come from years of fighting those quote-unquote shadows. From training for the unseen, from embracing discomfort when no one believed it mattered. Every dodge, every strike, every decision was already written in the hours that he'd spent alone. See, that battle was never about chance, it was about faith in himself. The enemy you cannot see is the one you must train for. Here's the thing people don't understand. That enemy, that one you cannot see, is everywhere. It's the morning you don't feel like waking up. It's the doubt that creeps in before you even start. It's the fear that whispers you're not ready. It's the voice that says maybe tomorrow, maybe later. And yet every time you train anyway, every time you push through anyway, every time you refuse to quit, you win. Not because the world gives it to you, not because circumstances align, but because your belief in yourself becomes stronger than the obstacles around you. The enemy you cannot see is the one you must train for. And by the end, the young Spartan didn't just survive. He didn't just fight, he conquered. Not the enemy in the field, but the enemy in his mind. And when people asked him how he was so ready, he smiled and quietly said, I trained for what no one could see. I prepared for what most ignore. I fought the battle that was invisible, and that made all the difference. The enemy you cannot see is the one you must train for. You will face your invisible enemies. Doubt, fear, hesitation. That inner voice that tells you to stop before you even began. Train for them. Prepare in silence. Strengthen yourself in the shadows. Because one day the battle will arrive. And when it does, you'll be the exception. You'll be ready. No, not because life was kind. It wasn't. Not because luck favored you. It didn't. But because you believed in yourself when no one else could see it. The enemy you cannot see is the one you must train for. So step forward, face the invisible, become unstoppable, and be the exception.